10, 9, 8. Go for main engine start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'm going to keep on working on these fins and gluing them in, straightening them out, using super glue and doing the fillets in there with the putty and so forth. But what I thought I would do is skip ahead so I can show you while I'm working on those fins. And what I'm going to do is start working on the recovery system. So we've got our recovery cord, the shock cord that we already installed in there earlier. Let me pop it out. There it is. All right, so what I'm going to do is there's a couple things that I need to change. In the instructions they tell you to actually tie this to the nose cone itself, and that's good and dandy if you are going to use the plastic parachute that comes with the rocket. But what I want to do is I'm going to use that fabric parachute that I showed you earlier, and I want to be cost effective because those parachutes are not cheap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so I can actually disconnect the parachute and move it from rocket to rocket, and the blast sheet here. See if I can find it somewhere over here. There's the parachute there, and this one here, which is the parachute protector. This one is not made out of Nomex, but it's a similar material. But anyways, I want to have this. It's not too expensive, but it's expensive enough that I want to be able to transfer it from rocket to rocket. You can wash this as well. They tell you how to wash that in the instructions there. But those two components right here are quite a bit of money, so I basically want to make sure that I can reuse these on different rockets and I don't have to pay that much on each rocket. So I have to make them detachable. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do here, now the parachute does come with a swivel. You can see that, or I shouldn't say it comes with it, but what I'm doing is putting these snap swivels on them. What these are is they're just fishing swivels, but they're very big. This is a number size 4 fishing swivel, and they do sell these. I know Apogee sells ball bearing versions which are real professional. They're fairly large, so the rocket this big, you know, a 2.6 tube, you could use a bigger one, but this is about the max I would want to use without it getting tangled up. So what I'm going to do is at the end of this cord is I want to actually attach it to one of the swivels here. So what I'm going to do is I've already melted the end of this so it is not frayed, and I'm going to kind of bend it. Let me give you a little tighter shot here. Okay, so I'm going to bend it and put it through the loop part of the swivel, the part that does not open. Okay, and just make sure it runs through there smoothly like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out enough of it, maybe a couple inches, so I'll have some extra. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a double knot in this. So I'm going to first put one knot in here, leaving enough extra that I can do a second knot. And I'm going to pull that about as tight as I can without breaking it. I don't want to screw it up. So, and then I'm going to have it at the base of the actual ring of the swivel. And let's do our double knot. Put it through again, and again tighten it down fairly good, so I got a fairly small knot. I try to keep everything small so that everything will eject correctly. Okay, so now we've got a double knot on there. Now what I'm going to do, this is a trick that Tim gave on one of his videos from Apogee, Tim Van Milligan, and what it is just taking some yellow carpenter's glue. You can use super glue, but super glue gets crispy and it will actually degrade the actual fabric. It'll make the fabric rigid, and then it can tear. So you want something that's fairly pliable. You can use shoe glue for this as well. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the glue, and I'm going to put it all over the knot and try to get it down in where the knot, the pieces transverse over each other. Make sure it gets all in there. And then to make sure that I don't get a big knot on here, what I'm going to do is I want it in the fabric. So I'm just going to take my fingers and smooth it out. And you can see how it gets in all those crevices where the knot is tied. And then if I see a part that I missed, I'll just go back in and reinforce it. Just smooth it out a little bit. But anyways, that's going to make it so the knot will not come undone. Because this being a fabric, it can get kind of slick, and that knot can come loose if there's enough pressure on it. So anyways, I'll let that dry, and then I'll clip this off. I don't want to clip it too close, because again, if it pulls just enough, it'll unravel. So I'll clip it off, usually about, I'll give it maybe a ½ an inch or so extra, maybe right there again, so it doesn't tie up with the other stuff, you know, with the whole recovery system. But if it does pull and this stretches and that pulls in, it will not come undone. And then the other thing I need to do, again, so it won't unravel, is I need to take a lighter and I need to melt that nylon on the end. Again, be very careful with this being fire, and you want to actually just get it close to it so it melts it down. You don't actually want to set it on fire. So now it's all capped up, and that will not unravel. Okay, so once that's done, what I'm going to be doing is the nose cone has this little loop right here. Now make sure when you pop that piece out and hollow it out that you don't break in this or crack it, because if this tears out, you're done. There goes your parachute with your nose cone. So what I'm going to do is open this little bail here. Okay. And I'm going to put that through the nose cone. And then I'm going to hook it back up. By just bending it. And these are pretty heavy poundage. Like I said, you can get heavy duty ones, but they're physically a bigger size. But that's pretty heavy duty. So, anyways, and it'll swivel, so the nose cone or the rocket can swivel without the other one getting twisted and tangled up. So, and then what I'm going to do is with the parachute, I'm going to use the other one of these, and I'm going to tie it to the parachute just the same. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. Grab that parachute. And let's get it better. There we go. Okay. So now the parachute has these nylon cords, and I want to put it through this piece, that loop again. And I may have to just put these through one at a time because they're pretty big. So I'll just slide them through like so. There's 4 total. Okay. There's number 3. And now I want number 4, which I might have to use my tweezers to pull it through. Yep, so what we're going to do is put my tweezers through there, through the ring, and then I'm going to grab it. Let me show you a close up here of this. Okay, so I'm going to use my tweezers, and I'm going to grab that piece and hopefully pull it through. There we go. So now we got it through, and we're not going to tie these. What we're going to do is we need to find the loop part of these, like that. So we've got all the loops like so, and we're going to just pass the parachute through the loops, like so. And what this is going to do is it's just going to pull itself into a, I don't want to say a knot, but a noose, so to speak. And we'll pull it tight. So there we go. So that's the parachute hooked onto that. It'll get tighter every time it gets deployed because it's going to pull on all this system here. But that way I can take the parachute off the swivel if I have to. But what I've got here now is a quick release. So if I'm at a rocket chute and I want to go from rocket to rocket, I don't have to actually undo all this piece here. And I just have this also hooked to the nose cone. And again, being on a swivel, it's going to spin around and not get anything tangled. So now we've got the parachute on a separate swivel there. We've got the shock cord on its own swivel. And the next thing I need to do is hook the parachute protector, and this has a little slot in it that's been sewn here, and you actually have to cut it open with a knife. So we're going to cut that. So I don't think it's pre-cut. No, it's not pre-cut. So we want to actually put a slot in there, and it's actually stitched so it shouldn't unravel on you. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect my shock cord. You can see how easy, now I just got a parachute and this nose cone, how easy the system is. I'm going to pass this through the liner, and I'm going to put it down close to the rocket because you want this actually close to the rocket. Now, from some of the videos I've watched, you can actually loop this around. If you don't want this to move, you don't have to tie it, but looping it around will keep it hopefully towards the bottom of the shock cord and won't get everything tied up. So there we have a, and pull it tight. You can see it should hold there. If you want to put a knot in it, you can put a knot in it. And then I'm going to clip this back on to the nose cone. And we're going to see how this all packs in. First time I've used one of these, so. All right. So we're going to take the parachute. We're going to open it up and zigzag our cord in here. Try to get them to not be tangled up with a little zigzag action there. And then I'm going to fold the parachute up or roll it up. Okay. And then on this, I'm going to, on the actual protector, I'm going to roll it up, and this is a Tim Van Milligan saying is make it into a burrito. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure everything's clear. We're going to move that, roll that up there. We're going to fold these sides in and continue to roll it. Okay, Now we've got the parachute in the parachute protector, completely protected. Okay. We're going to place that in the rocket. It actually fits quite well in this size of a rocket. And we're going to put all of the shot cord in there, all of that long line, which, like I said, we need when the ejection charge goes off. You want it as long as possible. Okay, so we're going to stuff all that cord in there and push the parachute down as far as we can. You can get a stick and press the rest in if you want. And then I've got the swivels there, so we're going to make sure the swivels don't interfere with anything. We're going to pop those in to the rocket, and on goes the nose. So everything, and then make sure the nose cone is easily ejectable. You don't want it too loose or too tight. If it's too tight, you want to sand it. If it's too loose, you want to put a piece of tape on it, but that feels just about right. So again, what we're going to do, I'll probably knock all kinds of stuff off my bench here doing this, but give it a false ejection charge. And there we go. The whole parachute, the parachute protector came out just like it's supposed to. It stayed pretty much where it was supposed to. This parachute would be in the air, it would open up, and this would come out, and it would open up, and everything's working nice and smooth. So we've got a recovery system ready to go. To finish the rocket, I can disconnect this real easy using those clips if I don't want it in the way, or if I just want to put it back in there while I work on the rest of it and put the nose cone on, I can do that too. So that is the recovery system. Okay, back to working on the Sasha, and I've got all the fillets filled here with the putty, and I got it sanded down. I even put a little putty on the where these little spikes go, and then sanded that down so they are filled there. Didn't really matter, but just took a little extra time and just trying to make it look a little nicer. So now I'm ready to actually put in these strakes along the side here, and they will actually go on the same line as these fins here. So the first one's going to basically go just like that. So we're going to do the same thing that we do with the fins, and I'm going to put some white or some carpenter's glue on the actual piece itself, and then I'm going to rub it into the wood and wait till it gets a little tacky, and then we will put on another coat and then actually attach it. So let's get this going here. Okay. So we'll smooth that into that wood grain there, and we'll let it dry, and then we'll go ahead and glue it in. Okay, now that it's tacky, I'm ready to install it. So we'll just take a little glue and go along it. Don't need a whole lot. We'll do a little bit of a fillet on this as well. I'm going to smooth it out. So I got glue in every area that I want. Let's make sure you glue the correct area on the opposite side of where you actually had sanded these little edges down. And then there's already a mark here. I'll line it up, get it straight. Get it where we want, and then give it just a little push. Just make sure it's not moving around. Just make sure it's on the correct line. These long pieces will go to the line to the tail fin of the upper stage. Okay, so we'll let that dry, do a little filleting on it, and move to the next ones. Okay, got my strakes on the Sasha here. And what I'm going to do is I'm trying a new technique, which is actually coming out pretty good, using epoxy to make the fillets. And what I've got here is I got some 5-minute epoxy that I poured out of the injector, 2 equal amounts. So I'm going to stir those together. And this is going to make a much stronger fillet than the super glue will, I do believe, because super glue has some strength, but it doesn't have any shear strength. And it'll just tear off one direction but be real strong in the second direction. But what I do with this is I actually thin this out with some 91% isopropyl alcohol. It actually thins out and cleans up epoxy. So if you have a mess, that's one way to clean it up. But it also will thin it out so we can actually get it into this groove and make sure it doesn't get too messy. So I'm going to take some small amounts on the end of the toothpick, and I'm going to put them in the crevice of this strake. And with 5-minute epoxy, you got to work pretty quick because it'll start to get gooey and set up, and it won't let you use the epoxy or the alcohol to thin it out. So we're going to get it in there pretty good. So just make sure this is equally mixed, because otherwise it'll never dry and it'll take forever to dry, and it's kind of a pain. Okay, so we'll make sure we get it around the edges to the front, specifically in the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Q-tips. I got a bunch of them here because I don't want to reuse them twice. Dip them in the alcohol, and then I'm just going to run it and roll the Q-tip as I go down. Throw it away. That pushed it into the crevice. Kind of made a little bit of a mess, but we'll clean that up on the side here with the other Q-tips. And don't push too hard, because you do want to have the fillet and not excavate the whole thing out. And you can just keep doing this. Just make sure you buy plenty of Q-tips, and make sure they're Q-tip brand. Some other brands, the swabs actually will come off. They're not actually glued to the stick, so make sure it is that brand. Okay. Just a little here and there, just making sure it's getting clean. And being alcohol, it'll evaporate. Okay. Now this is a waste of epoxy because this is already starting to set up, so I can't really do another side, and plus I wanted to actually have gravity push it into that. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll do the other side, and then we'll do all the other sides of all the strakes, and we'll have them all epoxied in, and we shouldn't have to do any type of putting in there, hopefully, if that epoxy dries smooth, and it'll look real good. So that's how the new way I'm going to do fins and extra parts on rockets.